Welcome back to my channel and Merry Christmas. In this Christmas episode, I'm going to switch it up a bit and essentially just go ahead and repair a few cars for the recording. So let's go ahead and get started by finding what vehicles we're going to repair. Let me see here. We had a Bolt Reptillia R2 SuperCharged. It looks like it has quite a bit of problems, so we'll go ahead and take that. And adding on top of that, the body looks terrible. But, we'll just go ahead and give it a car wash here. Least we could do. And I'm going to go ahead and vacuum the inside of it as well. You know, I almost want to... Well, I take that back. I'm sure it's going to have us repair those body parts by the order anyway, with how much was on that list. I was just going to say I was almost tempted to repair the body parts, but yeah, like you see here, it's already having us do it, so no real need to do that out of order, because it's in order when we're already set to do it. So, what do we got here? Front left fender. We have the right fender as well. It's a little weird that we don't. Front left fender, front right door, and left headlight. Right door and left headlight. Even though oh yeah. Old body styles, you know, sometimes they catch you off guard. Left tail light, right headlight, and right side mirror. I'd say right tail light. Oh, left tail light. And trunk window. That was left tail light, right? Yeah, sorry it's a little late. In the day, I'm used to recording this a lot earlier. However, due to a crisis with my previous recording, I am gonna record this Christmas episode special, which is a lot better than the original one. So, you know, I'm happy to do that for you guys. Okay, so we got the door there. Looks like we will need to purchase everything else. Add that to the list. Add that to the list. And add that to the list along with the headlights and taillight. I think I already added the taillight, but hey, let's add it again, right? Not in there. Steering wheel. All right. So go ahead and add that. Add that. Get that added. And add that. Get the trunk. And then we could add the trunk window to our list. Clearly, you could also pick it up from here, when you're just looking into the vehicle as well, it just makes it simpler for me to add it to the list. Easier to think about that way. But front left fender, let me see, yeah, I got that. Alright, so that should complete the body parts. Now we got brake problems. We see gear problems, we could check into those. More than likely the brake module and or the pump. Engine control. Alright, we got a lot to do here. Let's check on those brakes first though. Alright, so if you'll see here, 30% is the minimum condition you could have. And that brake pump looks like it is a lot lower than 30%. So we're going to take that off. It's right on 30%, which should be acceptable. Here's our problem, the brake servo. So before you take off the brake servo, you always want to make sure to drain your brake fluid. Otherwise it will spill out on the floor. Which actually brings to mind an achievement you can get within this game if you fill up your oil to the point of spilling out on the floor. I believe you get an achievement there, but you definitely get an achievement for taking off the oil pan prior to draining the oil. So if you don't have that one, definitely go pick that one up. Now I'm going to go ahead and repair the module, ABS pump, and the brake servo. Normally, in this situation, I would just repair the brake servo and the brake pump, but since I already did the module, might as well do the module. There we go. And the brake servo. Let's check and see our progression. That's weird. Because that was definitely in that list. I guarantee it. And let me see here. I'm putting this up. As it was under 30%, if I'm not mistaken. But, alright, if that's not it, we could always check on the brake pads and calipers. That'll just be the suspension, which will help for later, but let me see if I can't get in here without taking it off. In the older version, you were actually able to check that out without having to remove it, but I guess on this version you're not. Oh, those look like they should be good. Now, I'm just gonna take off these and next we'll just use the diagnostic magnifying, but that is another way to check on the condition. If you don't have the point in the talent tree, use that little magnifying tool, which is technically probably the best way of doing it here. Well, I take that back. Looks like we're just gonna have to remove them. That's one rotor. Definitely needed to be replaced. And two of them. And looks like it was the rotors, so. Best thing to do if you have the points in your talent tree with that is just come over to the brake glass and resurface those rotors. Now, I happen to already have some rotors in my inventory that I could use in place of those, but let's go back here. So you see 2 brake discs and 1 brake disc ventilated. The ventilated, if they are not on the front and the back, are always on the front in the front wheel drive vehicles. That's the only differentiation with the placement of the different types of brake disc, really. Is on front wheel drive vehicles, sometimes they'll just have them only in the front as opposed to only in the, well, on all 4 of them. I suppose it's a way of cutting cost. Not a bad idea, I guess, if you're into that sort of thing. And while we're doing this, let's go ahead and swap out that brake disc for another one. That's actually a pretty handy tool to have as well. It could save you on a lot of expenses when you're just getting started out. Let's go ahead and swap that out. Put that one in there. I don't know why that other, well, I guess I do. I put all the brake disc in there to resurface, so I'm just going to replace both of them, even though you only have to replace one. Now normally you will want to take these tires off if you're going to have to replace suspension parts later. However, for the purpose of this video, I'm just putting them back on. Alright, so the suspension feels loose. And suspension rattling. The best thing to do with that, and you don't even have to bring the car down for this, is you could just move it to the test path. And once at the test path, if the engine starts, you could just run it. And that will go ahead and test those parts. However, since this engine is not running, we're going to have to figure out why. I'm going to start with the battery. Looks like it's at 33%. That should be good enough. Let's go over here. Some of you may not have this unlocked yet, however, you could just use the compression test usually to test that. And we'll go ahead and give it a try. 70% on the camshaft, 18 on the piston. Oh, those two will need to be replaced, though they shouldn't inhibit the vehicle from starting. So the OBD scanner, good part to unlock, and you could do that early on. Only works on vehicles, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, from 1998 and on. We got a spark plug. We got a spark plug down. That would inhibit it from starting. In this game, anyway. Technically, it would just misfire in real life, but, you know, it's a game. And we got an ignition coil as well. And I'm betting this throttle's bad. So, rather than just replacing those parts and attempting to start it, since I will have to tear apart the entire engine to get to the piston and the piston caliber as well as the other part there. I'm just going to go ahead and get started on that, and we'll go ahead and walk through replacing all that from there. And once we build it back up, we'll go ahead and take it back to the test path. So while I'm doing that, I will cue the music. Okay, so as you could see, we were able to tear down the engine to the pistons and yeah, to the pistons. So what I did here, as you saw, is just undo the rod caps to the pistons that we're looking to replace, or the piston and concord as they're called. And now what I'm going to do is go ahead and bring it down. And before we move further, let me see. Already got that removed, right? Yeah, we already got those removed. Now, on some engines, you'll have your camshafts inside the header compartment. Um, in most V8 engines, from my experience, you're just going to have it right up front, right above the crankshaft. But in this model, you have about 4 camshafts, which honestly is not that common in my experience. But let's go ahead and see about removing those pistons. Got that one. That seems to be the problem. Oh, we'll get that put in there. Now on this, the only limitations are like 30% and below. Does make me a little tempted to use one of my old pistons, but I am not in the habit of using used parts. So I'm not going to do that to this customer. And we'll go ahead. We do want to highlight that ignition coil that needs replaced. Want to make sure we don't forget anything on the rebuild. And that's what those stars are for, is just to highlight different parts that you might want to highlight just in case. And now that we got that highlighted, we can put that in because that's 39%. So obviously you don't need to replace that if it's over the minimum, which is 30% on this vehicle. We do have spare camshafts, so I'll just go ahead and put on a new one for that one and put on the old ones for the rest of them. Alright, and for the pistons, normally I would put on performance pistons, but since we're not actually replacing all the pistons, let me just go ahead and put on a normal one for the piston. Not the piston, but the spark plug that needs replaced. You could tell it's late, can't you? It's late, my brain goes bye-bye. Alright, so got that in there. So now we're just going to use some other spark plugs I have. I mean, they're technically not the ones it came with, but they're still better off than the ones it came with. And I'm not going to use my new ones on it as, you know, that's not included in the work order. So, if anything, the customer would be getting a deal on some better conditioned spark plugs. Long run, it will last them longer than those other ones would have. You know? And you can comment below if you know. Oh, also comment below if you know any name brands of good spark plugs for Cobalt engine, like a really tiny non-turbo 1.8 liter Cobalt engine. You know what's funny about the 1.8 liter Cobalt engine is that it is smaller than, you know, one of those economic AVO vehicles back from the early next millennium when they started making them, or the 2010s, somewhere in there. And those things have difficulty getting up hills, so kind of a funny tidbit. And we'll go ahead and put in that supercharger. Now, let me just make sure we got those. Check. Oh, we'll remove that to avoid future confusion. And uncheck. Looks like we're going to replace some of those idle rollers as well. And ignition coils. Not the fuel rail, so usually we need to replace at least one of those. Not in this case, though. And that is good. Serpentine belt. I'd be surprised if it's not calling to replace those belts. Yeah, there we go. Timing. So we'll go ahead and add those to the list. What's that? Yeah, just gonna need 2 of those. Timing belt V8s. One and 2. And we're gonna go ahead and put that back on. And make sure to replace those treble ones first. Replace them with brand new ones, just as we did with the spark plugs, and we'll do with the ignition coil, as well as the piston. That's definitely going to need to be not a new if I don't already have one, which I don't. Now, here we're just looking for the one it came with, 31, and 36, and 44, and we got a 45. And a 40 crank. See about that? That should be okay. Belt tensor. Oof. I think he came with the 25. So I'm going to go ahead and try and repair that one. Belt tensor. Since this throttle's at 31, the base is 30, I'm going to repair that for him as well. You know, leads to returning customers. Oh. That's unfortunate. I'm gonna have to get another belt tensor. Alright, so timing belt, water pump, brand new, and belt tensor, brand new, and water pump pulley. I believe it came with a 60, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, please be sure to mention it in the comments. And 48 there. Belt tensor. That's the new one. And we'll add that to the list. We already have this one. So we'll put that one on now. Brand new throttle. You'll see I did go ahead and highlight that air filter just to make sure I do not forget it. Okay, so that at 33, that at 35, that at 35, that at 37. Coil covers, they're both good. Four, 46, obviously, you know, I was mentioning 44, and though it does remind you of a very particular thing, in this case we're referring to the ignition coil on a vehicle, not anything else. Sorry, I have people that, and I have very nosy neighbors, so they like to you know, be nosy and listen to everything I say. And sometimes the kiddos will like to grab stuff I say out of contents and then tell mommy and daddy that this very mean man next door said such and such. And, you know, out of context, these things could be misinterpreted. And, you know, they get mad. And instead of coming to me as an adult and having a conversation, they decide to do passive-aggressive moves and gestures, which, quite frankly, I think are childish, but, you know, that's culture we live in sometimes. So, luckily I had a spare air filter available, and that one should be good. Let me go ahead and check something here before we get that put together. Alright, good. I didn't want to put back the air filter lid here and have to go back and replace the air filter base. Alright, so we got that air filter. Let's see if I have any spare fuel filters. Right there. Do you have some spares? No. Like I was saying before, what I like to do is just replace the fuel filters, whether they were the original OEM fuel filter or the aftermarket fuel filter with an aftermarket fuel filter, as the benefits far outweigh the negatives. And by that I mean when you complete the job, you actually get a bonus for the parts. So if you actually use higher quality parts, then you'll get a bonus for it anyway. And it doesn't cost enough that it wouldn't be justified. The ratio works out, essentially, between the ratio of the part and the bonus that you get kind of over exceeds the amount that you would spend additionally on the part. Now, a running gear issue usually has to do with one of three things, that being the clutch bearing very rarely, the flywheel, the clutch plate sometimes, and often the clutch pressure plate. And in order to access that, you do have to take off the gearbox. Now, usually I would recommend just running a diagnostic on it, like on the test pad, in order to find that kind of part, because sometimes if you look back here, they'll include certain parts back here in the suspension as gear parts. So sometimes they'll catch you on that, but for me, you know, it's just a simple removing of the, what is that, the drive shaft, and then the starter, and we got no more than 6 bolts on the gearbox, so it's not really a big deal. And looks like the clutch plate was good. So is the flywheel, so that's good. The crankshaft's at 39, so that wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, we'll go ahead and take this on a test path then. Should have followed my first rule of advice on this build, I guess. But it's not a problem, like I said. Just put together a few little parts, and we're back on it. But hey, that wasn't it, I don't believe. I believe that came from a different build. 7 on the starter, and the drive shaft. And if somebody can comment in the comments if I'm right, I believe on an earlier version of this game, and maybe this was the 2019 version I'm thinking of, but I believe you were able to take off the casing to the rear differential and change the parts in there as well. But you can let me know in the comments. That would be greatly appreciated. I've been thinking about that for at least 2 weeks now. Let me see here. Okay, I just wanted to make sure, given there's so much stuff in the list, that we didn't have any exhaust issues listed in the list of things to do for this vehicle. Excuse me. Have some congestion going down the back of my throat. Since we're going to take it to the test pad, we will want to refill thy fluids. And since we're still having that starter issue. Honestly, it makes me think it might be a fuse, but there's nothing in electrical on the list, so it's not a fuse. Just remind me of a fuse, though. But like I said earlier, the spark plug and the coils in this game anyway would cause it not to start, though in real life it would just be a misfire. So, I'm sure they'll fix that on future versions of this simulation. Oh, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, when you live in the Midwest and you're attempting to start your vehicle in the winter when you live in the Midwest, you sometimes will hear what sounds like a misfire initially until the vehicle gets warmed up, especially on older models without fuel injection. But on the newer models with fuel injection, I would point to that being the engine is so cold that either the oil itself, if it's not the correct oil, could be sludged up, or the seals could be frozen until the engine warms up. If you wanted to comment below on what you think it is, or if you're a mechanic, what you know it to be. That's something else that has been on my mind for, I think, 3 weeks to a month. I've been thinking about that one. Let's see if it'll start now on the... Better yet, let's do it the proper way. We'll pull it out to the entrance. Garage entrance A. And hear that beautiful sound. Make sure that gear box. Shut off that engine, and we're going to leave the vehicle. And we're going to go ahead and move this vehicle, like we were in the first place, over to the test path. See the indicators below telling us what to do. Alright, that should fill out the list well here. Front shock absorber cap. General gear problems are still a mystery, and sorry, the suspension feels loose. That's not cool. But let's go ahead and bring it up. Front shock absorber cap should be pretty easy on this older model, as you don't really have to remove... Oh, no, these are the newer versions. So in this case, we will have to remove the double wishbone shock absorber. And we're just going to go ahead and separate it. Which round is our bar? 46. Springs, okay as well. Oh, let's go back here. We're just gonna put that on. And the spring. And the cap. We'll replace with a new one. Alright, so let me see here. I'm just gonna look around and try and find out where our suspension problems are. My guess usually is pointing at that wheel hub bearing. But in this instance, if we look in examine mode, it's really not showing us any problems with that. That's what it covers. Let me just make sure of something here. Alright, now that's what we're covering. Could very well be a bushing. Or a U-bolt. There we go, one U-bolt. And two U-bolts. Let me check the other end here. Bushing. I don't think it's that bushing. Nope, not that bushing. And that looks like it's 38, so I think that'll be good. But my guess is the plate itself may not. Yep, plate's gone. So we're gonna replace that with a new plate. Go ahead and put those U-bolts back on as they were. If I'm not mistaken, the older version of this game, the U-bolts themselves would have been included within the test path. And if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments below. Always open to discussion on that. It's interesting to, well, it's fun actually to learn new things of the subject matter you're interested in. Good, good. So, we got that all together. That only took approximately 54 minutes. Let's make sure we have all the fluid in there. Should be good to go there, obviously, because we were able to start the vehicle, right? We'll go over here, and we got general engine control and repair with 780 credits, replacing timing related parts, 484 credits. The filters need to be replaced, 117 credits. Suspension rattling, 65 credits. General running gear control and repair, 7 credits. The suspension feels loose, 30 credits. Tax bonus, 1,270 credits. Job bonus 1,763 credits. Total payout 8,481 credits. Thank you for watching my Christmas episode. Unfortunately, I was not able to repair as many vehicles as I would have liked for this episode, given the time ran a little bit over what I intended, and my system decided to crash on me about halfway through that second repair. So while you may see that footage show up in the future, it unfortunately will not be showing up in this episode. However, I do appreciate anyone who did decide to tune in for this episode. Thanks for watching, and if you did enjoy watching it, please feel free to like. If you would like to see these episodes in the future, please feel free to click subscribe, and any comments are appreciated. Thank you. Bye.